I'm going to discuss some different situations of lease breaks with you today. So you receive a phone call one day from your tenant that moved in 6 months ago to say that they lost their job and they just cannot afford to pay the rent anymore. Each scenario is going to be different. Each tenant and property has their own individual situation. So not only is it good to just have a general policy for all of your properties on lease breaks, but you need to try to step back in order to make the best out of each situation. When a tenant comes into our office to sign the initial lease paperwork, they are signing a legal document. It's a promise that they will stay in the property for a certain length of time, pay a certain rent, and have other obligations according to the lease agreement. We take that lease seriously, and breaking it is not a light matter. If a tenant were to inform us that they had a loss of employment and are unsure if they can get another job quickly, then it may likely be a good idea to move them out and re-rent the property ASAP. Bad things do happen from time to people, and by playing hardball and threatening eviction isn't always the most diplomatic or moral way to conduct your business. Therefore, breaking the lease can sometimes benefit both parties, avoid huge losses, and turn that loss into a positive for everyone. If you believe that there is a truthful, valid reason for a tenant breaking the lease, the best course of action is to negotiate some terms in order to show the property, find a new tenant, and just swap the residents out with new ones, and then charge the current tenant for the cost of the releasing. The goal here is that the landlord doesn't lose money, and in most cases this is an achievable goal. So next scenario is you receive a phone call from your tenant of, say, over 2 years, and they say that they found another home right down the street that is smaller, and they are breaking their lease so that they can pay less rent. So what would you do in this situation? Well, this demand came in from a tenant who actually pays their rent and keeps the property in good condition. But during their third lease term, they just want to move down the street because the rent is cheaper. There's no other good reason, no way. There is a lease for a reason. It's a guarantee by both tenant and landlord, and neither party can just break it because they feel like it or they want to pay less rent. Some landlords might consider the fact that they have been a good tenant and they will let them out of the lease early. But we don't usually see it that way unless there is a very good reason behind breaking the lease early. It's just not fair to the landlord, and they're usually pressured into it by the tenant when they really don't have to be. At the end of the day, a lease is a lease. So here's another scenario, number 3. The tenant calls you to say that they found the AC drain line has been leaking slowly through the garage wall, and there's a huge patch of mold that's been growing behind their living room entertainment center. They just found it today while moving some furniture around, and they are not happy. They want the property checked for black mold, and that they've been noticing their children's asthma has been getting worse and worse over the last couple of weeks. What do you do? Well, I sure hope that you have a lease break clause in your leases for these situations. When there is a possible health hazard, you really need to move as quickly as possible to eliminate it, whether it's mold or another situation. Inspect the property ASAP, use professional licensed vendors, and go by their advice. If you need to remove those tenants from the property temporarily or even permanently, then just do so. And while you're at it, be sympathetic and make sure they understand that you are doing everything in your power to resolve the issue. If you have a real health hazard and tenants that are more susceptible to health issues, including, say, young children, the elderly, or people with COPD or asthma, and you have mold, it is in everyone's best interest to just break that lease and don't charge the tenant a penalty. It's just not worth risking someone else's health and a potential lawsuit. Fully take care of the issue, don't cut any corners, and re-rent the property and move on once you've fixed the issue completely. Scenario number 4. The tenant calls to say their spouse died in the bedroom 2 days ago and they just can't bear to live in the house anymore. Now, this may be a rare scenario, but it does actually happen, and we say be compassionate. Break the lease, no penalty, and find a new tenant. Residential landlording is not all a numbers game. We are dealing with real people's lives just like you and me, so treat people as you want to be treated. Even if your tenants don't always thank you or appreciate what you do, always do the right thing and you will sleep well at night. For more helpful landlord tips and property management advice, visit www.wemanageorlando.com.